Coming up on this edition of Impact, a family that farms out of their own home.
Every year we're adding more ways to grow more food, and we're looking at a not complete independence, but as close as we can get.
And then an ancient dance ritual.
I think it's important for us to share our heritage and roots and culture, not to necessarily to separate them from the mainstream community, but to give them the best of both.
But first, a plant that needs a little bit more than just rain and sunshine.
They're just unusual. You see the Venus flytrap and you see it moving, and you're just a little kid and you wonder about it.
Welcome to Impact. I'm Marcus Mulick. Millions of Angelenos have gardens, and feeding their plants is often as simple as a little water and fertilizer. Well, Impact has found some plants whose feeding is just a little bit different.
I just like to feed it these frozen crickets. They're used for reptiles. And you just sort of drop one in each pitcher, and they'll just digest it slowly, get in there.
It looks like something out of a horror movie, but for Thomas Moore, growing carnivorous plants is a favorite hobby.
Ever since I was little, I've been gardening with my mother and my grandparents. The carnivorous plants started from a biology video they showed in bio class in my high school, where they showed about trapping mechanisms of different plants, and after that I just decided to give it a shot.
Moore is one of several Californians whose fascination with botany has focused on plants that eat insects. DJ Frank has been growing carnivorous plants since high school.
You know, it's hard to really even remember exactly, other than reading about them, that there were plants that kind of turned the tables and ate animals rather than the animals eating the plants.
You know, they're just unusual. You see the Venus flytrap and you see it moving, you're just a little kid and you wonder about it.
Chemo Yap has kept these plants since childhood. He says part of the appeal is having a hobby that's unique.
It's kind of nice, especially then, to be doing something odd that not everybody else is doing, and in a good way at least.
Carnivorous plants gained fame with the 1960 movie Little Shop of Horrors. In the movie, a down-on-his-luck florist buys a mysterious plant that he names Audrey.
What's the matter, little plant? Haven't I done everything I could for you?
Audrey begins to flourish when he accidentally gives it some of his blood. Eventually, the plant grows to giant proportions, and he must feed it entire humans to satisfy its hunger.
Well, goodbye, Dr. Farr. You may have been a crummy dentist, but you were a nice fella.
Audrey was designed as a cross between two carnivorous plants, a sticky plant called a butterwort, which catches insects on its leaves, and a Venus flytrap, which works like a mousetrap.
There's these three little tiny hairs on each side of the plant, and you just sort of rub across them, and then they close.
Venus flytraps are one of the most famous types of carnivorous plants, and DJ Frank says they are often misunderstood.
I would say the biggest misconception is people are expecting them to be these huge, monstrous things, and they're disappointed when you show them a Venus flytrap and the trap is, an inch long, and they were expecting something that maybe they could stick their hand in and, be like a bear trap or something.
But Venus flytraps are just the tip of the iceberg. A particular favorite for many growers is the pitcher plant, which is renowned for its beauty.
This is one of the more dramatic ones called Sarracenia leucophila. It's the white trumpet. That's used very often in the florist trade. You'll see that quite frequently in floral bouquets.
Out of all my favorites, it would have to be my North American pitcher plant, Dana's Delight. It's got this deep reddish pink tinge to it that just covers the entire pitcher, and it looks absolutely exquisite, in my opinion.
Let me see here, like if I were to, for example, clip off this pitcher here and actually cut this leaf, you would think really how many bugs can something like this catch? And yet when I open that up, you can see how effective this plant is at trapping insects.
While pitcher plants work by luring small insects inside their sticky chambers, others, such as the sundew, keep their traps on the outside.
They get very, very long leaves, and if they're grown outside, they would be completely covered with small gnats and fruit flies and things like that.
Although the plants may seem intimidating, growers like Frank say anyone can keep them.
Yeah, that's kind of a myth. A lot of people think that they're really difficult to grow, and in actuality, they're very easy to grow. You just have to meet certain requirements. Pure water, a distilled water, reverse osmosis water, something that removes the minerals and the salts. And you need to have a potting medium, a soil, that doesn't have a lot of minerals or nutrients in it.
Go to the 99-cent store and buy a Venus flytrap. And they have them. And, read up.
They're easy to grow, and Moore says their appeal is undeniable.
They're weird. They're just something, they're not the average plant that you would have. No one really has carnivorous plants. It's something that's different. You just sort of sprinkle them over the top. Something lands somewhere.
Okay, this is a vintage Poochie dress. Isn't it cute? It's psychedelic colors, and it has a few little holes around the sleeves and the neck of the collar where I have it pinned, and so I'm going to repair those.
Claudette Hill, who owns Lamb's Invisible Reweaving, practices a dyeing art. She restores garments that have been eaten by moths or ripped by accident.
Yay! So happy I found it.
Finding spare threads in the seams of sleeves and collars, she weaves them into the holes left in her customers' favorite suits and sweaters.
I'm going to attempt to re-knit it exactly as it is, right here.
Alone, Hill carries on the work of a shop with 54 years of history. It used to belong to William Lamb, who first taught the craft to Hill's aunt. She then taught Hill's mother, who eventually passed it on to Hill.
I went to my mother's house, and she was practicing reweaving, and I found it very fascinating. So after watching her for a few minutes, she had me to sit down, and she was teaching me. A lot of times I would get up in the middle of the night when my family is asleep and practice. I would be practicing on learning to do a certain weave and couldn't get it, and dream about it, and get up in the middle of the night and think, I have it, and get to work the next day and show Mr. Lamb, I finally got it.
Lamb had 27 reweavers at one point. At 19, Hill was the youngest. But one by one, they died or left the business. Hill's brother was the last to go.
He also was a block weaver. He was my right arm, actually. But his heart wasn't in it, and he wanted to do something else, so I miss him. I miss everybody. There's several people that have died, like Mr. Lamb, and my husband, MacArthur, my aunt that taught me everything I know. It was just like a big family. But for me, I couldn't motivate them. So here I am by myself.
Hill bought the business from Lamb in 1989. At first, she liked working alone. She didn't have to worry about anybody else. But now, at the age of 61, Hill says, she longs to pass on the art as others passed it on to her.
Most of the people that really want to know how to do what I do is, they're almost my age. And it's more difficult because as we get older, past 40, our eyesight dims. I would love to teach young people so that the art won't die, you know, and that it'll carry on. Someone older taught me. Now that I'm older, I want to teach young people what I know. There we are. Once it's steamed, you won't be able to tell there was ever a hole there. There you are. That's great. It's important that young people know because people will always need this service. As long as you use fabrics, we'll need this service.
We stick with the green theme in our next story, but this time the focus is on energy. Impact has found a family who has practically rolled back time and shares some cool ideas about using less water and staying off the energy grid.
I decided to start a quiet revolution here at home. And it began right in my backyard where I decided to grow my own food.
This revolution has to do with something rare in this day and age. Jules Dervaes decided to create his own urban homestead. Dervaes lives on 1/5 of an acre on Cypress Avenue in Pasadena, California, just 13 miles from downtown Los Angeles.
This was all about trying to have a better life in the future. We are trying to survive as a family.
Their urban homestead generates 6,000 pounds and 300 varieties of produce. That takes care of 80% of the family's food in the summer and 50% in the winter.
Every year we're adding more ways to grow more food, and we're looking at a not complete independence, but as close as we can get.
Dervaes' daughters Anais and Jordan and son Justin work full-time on the homestead to achieve that goal.
We're all involved in manual labor, and my kids were interested in the same thing I was. All of them are interested in growing things.
The Dervaes have also found a way of spreading the benefits of their interests. Their online store, Peddler's Wagon, sells handcrafted goods. They also sell their excess fresh greens and edible flowers to local restaurants.
This would be a miniature sunflower, and these would be miniature roses.
Justin Dervaes wakes up at 5 in the morning on Wednesdays and Fridays to prepare orders for restaurants.
Okay, we're going to Marston's restaurant located in Pasadena, and we're going to make a delivery of fresh salad mix.
Hey, how you doing?
Fine, how are you doing?
Good. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Oh, great. Looks good.
All right. Thanks.
I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Anais Dervaes can whip up a simple meal with fresh fruits and vegetables from her backyard in less than 20 minutes.
You're tasting real food. I mean, when it's picked within, half hour, couple minutes, it's simple, yet the flavor and the taste is amazing.
And simplicity is the mantra that drives the entire Dervaes household. They use only about 200 kilowatt hours per month. That's 20% of what an average urban household consumes in the United States. And the secret of their low consumption lies in their unusual ways of conserving electricity.
All the implements that we have here don't require a plug-in. That way our kitchen uses less energy and relies on muscle power.
The Dervaes use their muscle power to install 12 solar panels that generate nearly 200 kilowatt hours every month. They summon the sun's energy for other purposes like cooking. A solar oven works by turning light energy into heat energy. A solar oven can reach a temperature of up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit on a cold or a hot day, as long as it's sunny. The Energy Information Administration says solar energy is used to generate less than 0.1% of the electricity consumed in the United States. Water is another resource that the Dervaes conserve.
You fill up a jar, you stick it in the ground, it seeps out, and then you've watered your plant by just filling up this container. And that's water conservation.
And he conserves water in other ways too.
Rainwater will be stored in here and not have to be wasted or go out down the drain or out off your property. It could be stored in here for future use. And the same thing with this one. You know, catch 55 gallons of rainwater.
This is a toilet lid sink. What happens is, after you use the facility, when you flush the toilet, the new water that comes in gets pumped through the faucet first. So with the new water coming in, you are able to wash your hands, and then when you wash your hands after the water goes, it fills the bowl. So it's a little conservation method here.
This lifestyle is a response to the need for sustainability in cities. A United Nations report says cities in developed nations like the United States are not equipped to handle the food and energy requirements of breakneck urbanization. So, the Dervases lifestyle may provide an example of how we might meet future urban demands for food and energy.
Gandhi was asked, what's happiness? And he said, to have all of what you need and some of what you want. Things are supposedly faster today. Is that good or bad? Is speed the main quality of life? Well, I see people running around being so busy that they didn't know all life has passed them by. So I'm trying to turn back the clock.
Called Art in a Latte, and it's using the crema in the espresso, which is that kind of golden brown stuff, with the milk and the foam to create these beautiful designs in the cup of coffee. Etching is literally drawing on the top of the cup. You're taking a spoon and scooping foam in certain spots and then pulling it out. So you're literally taking something that has a sharp, pointy end and you're drawing on the cup.
Pour my canvas in the cup. My canvas is ready. Lightly brush the canvas. Well, there's a little leaf. It's a baby leaf. That is a kite. It is a mouse. No, it's a bunny rabbit.
You have to really understand your milk. Is it silky? Is it smooth? The flow of the milk is probably the most critical thing. The way the milk flows and the pace at which you pour is all going to create a different design, and it's all going to push the milk in different ways. In order to start latte art, you've got to have patience. It does not happen overnight. It doesn't happen in a 4-hour class. It doesn't happen from watching a video. The drinks themselves are pieces of artwork. Latte art takes coffee from a drink to an experience.
Indian dance is an expressive and unique art form which tells tales of the Indian culture through movement. In our final story, we look at an Irvine dance studio who is bringing this ancient tradition to Southern California.
As first generation of any community, I think it's important for us to share our heritage and roots and culture. Not to necessarily to separate them from the mainstream community, but to give them the best of both.
We don't know our culture, we don't know, our religion. It's really sad. So if we can just take from this little part that we call dance.
You notice that we don't dance with our shoes on, and that's an important thing. When
Huge part.
As soon as we, and that's because it's a very cultural as well. Like, if you go to my house, like you take your shoes off, and it's your home is your temple. This floor is holy.
2, 3, 4.
These dancers are in Irvine, California, rehearsing one of India's oldest classical dance forms called Bharatanatyam. The dance draws inspiration from ancient Indian religious sculptures and today is one of the most popular forms of Indian dance. The stories that Bharatanatyam communicates originated hundreds of years ago in Indian temples.
Every day, part of the prayer ritual was dance and music, was one of the offerings to the gods, And every evening there would be a performance in the courtyard. And these dancers would either be dancing in praise of the deity or enacting stories from myths, So sometimes each temple had 200 such dancers. And it was performed exclusively by the Devadasis, who were, the community of artists who passed on the arts from generation to generation.
The dance form began as prayers, and much of the movement still speaks to Indian religion.
For me, the way that I actually learned about my own religion, I never took classes, and I learned through my parents and books and stuff. But it's such an ancient religion that just through telling the stories and dancing it, you are teaching about your religion as well.
In the very depths of us, we're always looking for our cultural roots.
Our parents came here, then we grow up here in this environment, and we don't know what's happening. We don't know our culture, we don't know, our religion, we don't know, what our foods are a lot of the times. It's really sad.
We may not think it's important at some point in our lives, but I think as we all get older, we do feel we want to know where we came from, how are we connected to this planet.
All that has to be clear.
Bharatanatyam combines dance movements and song to tell complex stories.
These are devotional songs, these are love songs, and if you can think of any situation in a relationship between a man and a woman, there is a song for it. It's universal and it's timeless. You don't have to be Indian to connect with it. It's just beautiful, and that's really what turns me on.
And something you did, I noticed her particularly, and everywhere I noticed different people doing something that I would like it to be a little bit different.
Dance guru Ramya has been teaching in Irvine for more than 25 years after moving here from India.
My family said, you got to do business. I was actually halfway through my graduate program, so I was doing both simultaneously, but then halfway through my master's, I said, yeah, screw this, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I just want to dance. I knew that I didn't want to work in an office. I did not want to work 9 to 5. So the only other option was, if I wanted to do something relating to dance, was to teach.
Ramya says she soon discovered that Irvine had a growing number of Indian immigrants.
When I came here in 1981, the Indian community had been here maybe 10, 15 years, and a lot of them had young girls, anywhere from 4 to 10 years of age, and they were actually looking for somebody to teach. And partly it was, I think, the unfulfilled desires of the moms, who didn't have the opportunity.
Sravani is one of the mothers that took advantage of Ramya's expertise, enrolling her daughter in dance lessons at a young age.
When Laika turned 6, I thought that I would like to expose her to dance, something that I was passionate about as a child. And Laika entirely enjoyed. Week after week, there was absolutely no complaints in the way that there were for some of the other activities that we had pursued. When it was time for dance class, it was just get up, get ready, go.
Ramya teaches at the Ekta Center. Here, community members can take classes in music and dance.
Ekta in Sanskrit actually means unity or oneness. And we essentially provide education which exposes people, especially the next generation, to much of the arts and cultures of India.
I feel that the Ekta Center is definitely filling some important gaps. It is the only one of its kind. The education in and of itself was so valuable and something she was very fortunate to receive right in our backyard through Ramya.
It's like you're chasing somebody, you're chasing somebody in the water here.
One of Ramya's fortes is how to use facial gestures, primarily with hand gestures and body movement being secondary forces to emote certain emotions such as love, jealousy, disgust, guilt, fear.
It's kind of like mime. We use symbolic gesture language, we use facial expression, we use the whole body. Every muscle and nerve in your body expresses.
Here we have a picture of me being scared or worried about someone or something that's just happened or event that's taking place.
This form of Bharatanatyam is part of an interpretive movement called Abhinaya.
You have the structure, but then you're allowed to improvise and build on it and bring your own perspective and your own thoughts and emotions into it. So I love that part of it, that most.
My favorite thing about Bharatanatyam is the communication. I love that a performer can emote outwardly, but internalize everything. And it's almost like this full circle within a person.
The whole aspect of Abhinaya, I think, is truly unique to Bharatanatyam because you really have to know yourself to be able to put yourself out there. And you have to experience it within you.
So in order for that to happen, the actor or the dancer has to completely identify with the character that they are playing and become. So I tell my students, it's not about acting, it's about being.
That's it for this edition of Impact. Be sure to check out our website at uscimpact.org. Now let's take a look at some of our upcoming stories.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog, you're crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time.
This would take officers a long time to hand search, and even so, they would probably miss little spots that they can't see the item in. That's why we use our dogs, is because of their sense of smell. They're able to smell things that we wouldn't be able to see.
Check it out, y'all. Check it out, y'all. Yo, Buggy, what you gonna do?
There's a huge graffiti art culture here in Los Angeles. There always has been, and you can almost say. It's like there's been graffiti art in LA. It's been a major thing. There's nothing that's ever really successfully suppressed it, essentially.
So gone. This dust got suddenly turned into dawn.